So the thing is, for one of the things I've realized when I moved, because I moved from Nigeria in 2018, and one of the things I noticed is a lot of people and a lot of organizations here have what we call the mental health well-being rather mentor, or that's someone you can actually go to and just speak to if you're feeling overwhelmed. In this COVID time, it's been really, as I said, really difficult. Like I said, my husband is in one of the most affected industries. He's a pilot, so aviation. So it's been really, really difficult. But one of the things we do know is people are going to come back. Especially if we're talking about children who you're going to keep with, then who are the leaders of tomorrow. If you're not up to task, you're not feeling well, you're not going to be able to perform the duties for what is expected of you. Children are very sensitive and they notice. A lot of people will be cranky, which is understandable. A lot of people have lost their life resources, and a lot of people feel, well, I say, cheated and spited. Which it's understandable on both parties. As a entrepreneur, you don't have kids in school. You don't have. There's some schools that we're talking about it. The private schools are closing down. Even in Somerset, my kids are in 6 state boarding schools closed, even in the UK. So it's understandable, but at the same time, so that's from the point of the proprietors and owners of school. But the teachers are feeling like, well, you're just leaving us in this difficult time. So where do you strike that balance? So where do you strike that balance? Where's the balance in between both of them? So what I tend to advise is, as you said, before they come in, even if it's a week or two, if it's a retreat can be just come to the school, let's just talk. Let's, do you want to vent? Let's vent. If you can, we have what we call screening tools, screen for depression, screen for anxiety, which is going to be a lot. Screening for things like thoughts of suicide, which is, they're the simple things that can be done by a psychologist, a psychiatrist. That extra 25,000 or 50,000, whatever they have to pay, to get someone in to speak to them and try and hide. We reinforce the fact that we are, the teachers are being heard, are being listened to, and are being valued. But that's something I know that it's lacking. It's the development of staff and a lot of in some schools, and it's not even just schools. It's just general organization in Nigeria. We don't have that. How do we? Mental wellness is something that is slowly coming into place, but it is taking a bit of time. I used to say this back before I left Nigeria, that the health budgets for mental health is 1% and that is in a country of where, as last time, 140 or 160 million people. How many mental health hospitals do we have? For Lagos, we only have Yaba left, which is what everybody remembers Yaba left, and we have Lasut. Lasut has maybe 10 beds. Luth has about 10 beds. Then Yaba itself has 400 beds. So we have, let's say, 420 beds in the whole of Lagos. Some states don't have that. So that's the thing. So we don't really, a lot of people are not investing in mental health. So what I would say is, for anyone who has a school or even any organization, is how can we make sure, because the thing is very difficult, it's difficult for everyone, but how do we try, how can we best help our staff to make sure that they feel heard and feel that they are being appreciated and supported is the key one. Major thing is, how do we support them and make sure they feel supported?
Thank you very much, Fiki Manua. There's a question from Yinka Owairu for you.
Yeah.
So we're not about to let you off that quickly. There's a question for you.
You know why, Mrs. Manua, this is very important to me, is I want to challenge you, and I hope, whoever gets to come across this video on Facebook, I want to challenge Nigerian doctors like yourselves, because I think part of the fear that people don't come forward is the stigma. And people are dying more from emotional, than from physical health issues. I want to challenge you that you guys have to make it all right for people to say I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how you guys are going to do it. You should start running campaigns, but you have to do it in such a way that in Nigeria, my heart bleeds for people, because I know sometimes that, you know, I've been in places where I'm emotionally overwhelmed and I know I'm incapacitated. And so really when people come to work, they can't explain to anybody, they don't want to talk to anybody. So let me not, you know, this is important. And I've taken that on board, you know, because I consult for schools as well, that definitely we would look into that, you know, that somebody just comes, let's not take it for granted, you know, that everybody's coping. But I want to throw that challenge out. It's not really a question that I hope I hear from you. I hope I hear from you guys to make people understand that as little as panicking is mental health and you're not mad, that as little as not wanting to go to work is mental health and it's not, you're not mad. There's a way, and you know, the solutions that can come from it. So that's what I really, really want to say. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Yinka Wairu, for that contribution. Thank you. And we hope that members of school administrative boards, councils on this webinar today will have that as a takeaway. The mental health of the people who are educating our children should be taken seriously, especially if we're all just emerging from this crisis. Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions for Dr. Manua in case she has to leave in the next 10 minutes? But while we're waiting, I hope you'll still stay on with us, Dr. Manua, for a few more minutes while I bring Umia Filaka on board. We will be taking our second session with Umia Filaka, who will be speaking about becoming valuable and relevant in the workplace. She's going to give us a teacher's perspective. I'm going to be looking at her as a teacher and an administrator in the education sector, because from her bio, that is what I see that she has been in all these years of her experience. So I'd like to welcome Bumia Filaka to speak with us, give us her presentation, and after that, we'll be taking her question and answer session in case she needs to exit the webinar as well. Bumi, welcome. Would like to hear from you.
Good afternoon. I just want to say, first of all, I can't share my screen, so my PowerPoints I want to place. Can we have a look at that?
Let's see.
It's been disabled by the host. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Whilst we're going on that, I just want to say, along with what Yinka and Vicky have said, in my school, and most schools in the UK, for example, they do provide well-being services. So you have the facility to join online and get telephone consulting and have counselling, book different things that will, as you said, will help you build up your mental health. Because as we all know, for us educationists at this time, it's been a very stressful time. Even at the moment, for example, where back in the UK, we are back in school. We've been in school for the past 3 weeks, but it's a completely different environment. But the concern is now, because of the fact that the students are not seen to be people that can transmit the disease as much as the adults are, the concern is that we adults, the teachers, being in that environment is actually not very conducive for the teachers. So they provide these services online a lot of the time, or by telephone consulting, where teachers can call up, it's completely anonymous, and you can discuss things to do with your mental health, how you're feeling. And obviously also we have, in the UK, we have unions. We have the teachers' unions, and they're at the forefront of fighting to make sure that the teachers are safe. The government is adhering to the guidelines that it has promised to do to make sure that we, the teachers, are safe. So that's something that I agree with what Yinka and Vicky has said, that it's really important for proprietors and school owners to make sure that they can provide those services. Thank you on that. So this morning in particular, I'm going to talk about being relevant and valuable in the workplace. I think Ronke talked about it earlier, that we have to go back to what we consider to be important when we became a teacher. So I'm going to talk through some of the things that are relevant to us at this point. So to be relevant as a teacher is to be successful, and it's really, really important that we are relevant and stay useful, innovative, and to keep up with the times. As we said, it's one of the things we signed up for as a teacher. We had that enthusiasm, we had that light, and the willingness to be able to share and impart information to young people. So it's important that we believe in our students' potential. A teacher's success begins with the success of their students, and I know very much so in Nigeria, where we have private schools, it can actually be said to be your performance balance is if your students pass or not. I've been in schools where if your students don't pass their exams, that can affect your pay grade, your pay rise, your promotion. So it's very important that we have high expectations and we believe in our students' potential. So believe in their potential to succeed and make sure that we have to push them to their limits. Even when they fail, we have to motivate them to try again and to work harder. This helps pull them out of their comfort zones so that they can pursue success, knowing that you are there to pick them up each time they fail. And we have to be careful, very mindful of the fact that I always say that not all students are A-star students. We have to bear that in mind. Yes, we have that burning desire to make them achieve their maximum potential, but we have to make sure we're not categorize them or diminishing them if they don't get an A-star. We look at their own individual potential as something that they can achieve. As an educator, you have to learn everything you can about your field. You have to stay and become very knowledgeable in your field of study, because this also gives you the confidence and make sure that you are also a teacher that, even though you do not know everything, you are knowledgeable about what your subject is. The more you know, the easier it is for you to be able to teach your students and offer them prompt answers to any questions. I mean, many of us have been in the classroom where a student asks you a question and you don't know the answer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you have to have the ability to be able to get back to the student and answer that question at some point. You should go beyond the basics. You should never stop learning and feed your mind with as much information as you can take in. I mean, this seminar, for example, webinar is one of the a good point in mind, because you should be able to attend things, especially now we've got the prevalence of online trainings is now more prevalent in the world. It's a situation where you can attend conferences and seminars that will help build you as a teacher. Also, sharing new knowledge also pushes students to research and learn more about things that happen beyond the confines of their classroom. If you're somebody that is knowledgeable about things, that also should spark their own interest as well. And a student knowing things a knowledgeable student is someone that is willing to learn and find out things outside of the classroom. So it's not just about book knowledge if they're knowledgeable, because when they move on to higher education, we know it's not just about book knowledge, it's having the ability to learn. Okay, so for us as educators, we join professional groups, we join seminars, webinars, and we read online educational blogs. Make sure that you also take note of your peers. They're a good source of information. If you see that there's a colleague that has implemented new strategy, is working well with certain students that you might be having difficulties with, or behavior management strategies, speak to them and find out how they're doing and try and implement that strategy for you, because it could help you as well. One thing about teaching is it has to be fun and energetic. I always say that the reason why I taught in secondary, because I find it easier to relate to the younger minds rather than the infant minds. We all know that in primary school, they learn more through play. But when we're talking about secondary school, we have to also make sure we're enthusiastic and approachable. Make a point of smiling to your students when you're conversing with them. And where applicable, you might crack a joke or two, as long as it's not something that's sarcastic or can hurt or wound them. But you have to be able to break any tension or fear that the students have when they approach you for help. If you're seeing somebody that is distant, the students may not feel comfortable or confident enough to speak with you, and we don't want that. If you love your subject and your job, it will enable you to be engaged into your task, and your students will see that you're enthusiastic about it, and that will build upon their enthusiasm as well. As with everything, you should be ready to take risks. It's a crucial part of any success. Your students will watch you as a teacher. If you're somebody that is willing to explore, try something new, even if it doesn't work all of the time, they will be ready to do the same. Nobody's perfect at anything, so and nurturing their risk-taking ability is also part of something that encourages them to make sure that they're building on any possible failures that they might have. Okay, so if you're trying something new, all you need to do is make sure that you have a dry run through, you've tried it out before, so that you're diminishing any aspects or any chances of it not working as you want it to. But you should be willing, and the students should know. I mean, I've been in lessons where I've said to the students, right, we're going to try something new today. So they're aware that, okay, it's something we haven't done before, we're just going to try it out. It may work, it may not work, but the students also see that you are ready to take risks, and then they can be inspired to do the same. Again, this also leads on to being creative and thinking outside of the box. You have to always try and make sure as a teacher in the classroom, you're capturing their attention. We know that there are different learning styles. Some are visual, audio, kinesthetic, which does not work as much in certain subjects in the classroom environment. But you have to be ready to make sure that your material is engaging, and so that they can also be keen to attend and stay awake and present for the next one. So get used to sharing ideas with your colleagues and brainstorming with them when you have a problem. It's a skill that will help you connect with your colleagues and come up with more creative solutions. Get inspiration, be inspired at anything you do. Take an opportunity, if you have the time, to volunteer in another teacher's classroom. You may speak to your proprietors. If there's another school on the same level of standards of you, that you might go and observe teachers and see what they're doing and identifying their strengths and weaknesses. Okay, and we always have to be mindful that students are individuals. Yes, you have a class of 15, 20, 30 students, but they're all individual. They have their own needs, and you should be able to identify the areas that they need for development. It's not going to be the same for every student in that class. Every student will have their own set of strengths and their own set of weaknesses, which you should be able to identify and work towards, lean towards the different teaching techniques and materials to be able to enhance each one of them. Another thing as a teacher is we have to make sure we're consistent and decisive. We have to make sure if we say something, we stick to it, okay? Especially when it comes down to things like within the classroom or school policies, in terms of if you set a standard of rules, if you say something to one student, it has to apply for all. All students are very quick, and they're very to identify if you have any sort of favorites in the classroom. If you allow one student to do more or get away with one thing, they're very quick to pick that up. I mean, we've even growing up ourselves, we have been in situations where we felt that one teacher doesn't like them, or that teacher has a favorite in the classroom. We should not allow that. As a professional, you shouldn't have that. We should be consistent. If we say, if you don't bring your homework in tomorrow, you're going to get a sanction, we must follow up on that sanction. We can't say what we've done for Jack, we don't do for Jill. We have to be consistent, because the students will see and they will pick up on that. Communication is a huge part of teaching, and it's communicating information, and the dialogue helps us to pass critical information and recommendations that may be crucial to your students' success. So a good thing to do with communication is ensure that you understand your school's procedure in communicating and contacting parents in particular. In general, other than outside of the school environment, teachers should not be contacting students directly. You should not be speaking, having their phone numbers, emails, personal email addresses. All contact with the students should be done through school formal environments. I know a lot of schools nowadays have moved to Google Classrooms or any other environment like that, where the student has his own school account, and then you are setting material for the student. But if it's a one-on-one contact, it should be done according to your school's guidelines across the official channels. I know some situations where, particularly in Nigeria, that teachers have students' phone numbers and are contacting them via WhatsApp. that should not be the case. There is child protection issues against that. So in particular in the UK, they're more stringent about such things. You should not be communicating with students one-on-one that could lead anything up to any accusations or contact that is not appropriate. But when you're contacting, you can also think about when you're communicating with parents, you should always have a way that the parents are kept up to date with their child. I mean, the worst thing would be you've waited till the end of term to have a meeting with the parent, and then you're telling the parent their child is not doing well, behavior is a concern, but this child has been in school for the full 12 weeks and you have not relayed that information to the parent. So as a parent as well, you have to make sure that you are giving them the communication, verbal, written, or any school approved channels, to make sure that they're getting the information that they need. But also, in terms of your personal communication skills, it's also important to make sure that you're improving on those. So presentation technique when you're in the classroom. I know it's something we did when we were on our training, is that we recorded ourselves in the classroom. We had a video recording ourselves so that you can see how much you have your back to the classroom, or how much your voice is projecting to the classroom, how they can hear you. So it's something that you can work upon and improve, so that you improve your own personal communication styles. Very important, and this is particularly in my field, as being a head of year, pastoral concern is a big thing for me, so that you know your students. In my school at the moment, in my year group, year 10, that is equivalent of Form 4, I have approximately 200 students. I know each and every one of those students by name, and I have a good enough relationship with them so that I know if they're having a good day or if they're having a bad day. You should be able to empathize and support them when they have personal issues. If there's a student in your classroom that you know comes to school on time, is smart, works hard, is doing well, and yet on one particular day they've come to school, they've forgotten their books, their homework is not done, and they're looking disheveled or sleepy, you should be able to pick up on that and be able to either report it through the proper channels if you have child protection issues there, or making sure that you are connecting with that student to find out if something is not right. I know we have certain boundaries in which you can look into, but within the guidelines of those school policies, you have that connection with the student to know that if there's something going on around them. You have to be empathetic with them, have the empathy, and also think of them as your own, as you would your own child. You would not like to see your own child in such a situation where, like we talked about mental health, there's something going on. So you should be able to recognize that in the classroom and be able to work with the students to help find solutions with that. Providing relevant study materials is one thing we in Nigeria know how to do in school, is to give homework, past question papers, and run through things like that. But also we have to make sure the materials are relevant. You know, we have ebooks now, online resources, videos. For example, in my school, during this lockdown, we have provided a lot of online textbooks. We have situations where you can subscribe, schools can subscribe to certain websites, and they have online videos for the students to work through, and which automate quizzes so that the students can take those in their own time. It's not about just overloading them with homework and assignments that are 50 questions of the same thing. It's enabling them to get extension material, extension research, something that is going to stretch their ability, and also ultimately, if they are in the examination year, to give them the skills that they need to sit the exams. So as we said again, also making sure that the work that you are setting is in line with the school policy, to make sure that you're setting as required. Just like you yourself as a teacher will have your own goals, it's important that the students do too. They should know what their personal targets are. If the student is working towards a C, the student should know that. If the student is working towards an A star, they should know that, and they should know what they need to do to be able to achieve that goal. There's no point saying, oh, you're going to get an A star, but the student has no way of knowing how to do that through each topic or each term that you're working at. You know, we know that when we have a goal, the Bible says if you have a vision, you should write it down so that you know that you are working towards that goal. The same way the students should know that, okay, for me to get that A star, I need to make sure I understand this material, but I can also answer extension material so that that will get me the higher level that I need to achieve. So you work with the students to help them achieve their goals, and you're working together as a team. Okay, their success is your success. And finally, a professional educator is always learning and growing to become relevant. You're looking for new ideas or teaching strategies, ways to improve your own skills, or new information that will make an impact. There's no perfect mold. You might find some teachers are the type of teachers that are more strict and not as warm and fuzzy as others. Some teachers are the type of students that are very warm and laugh and crack jokes all the time, but they're able to make sure that their teaching is as effective as yours. So make the time to go to conferences, serve on committees, decide, or if need to, decide on the continuing education path if you're somebody that feels that you need to go back to school or to get another degree or something else that's going to help you. But it requires effort, and for you to be relevant, for you to be the teacher that the administrative or the leadership team take account of, you have to be shown to do something more than anybody else. You have to go back to the passion you had when you were learning to be a teacher, in order to make sure that you stand out. And if it really is your passion, if it's something that you really want to do, not something that you're just forced to do at this particular time, that will come through, and you will become a teacher that is always called upon and recognized and rewarded ultimately for your improvements. It takes patience to continually grow and truly understand your craft as a teacher. But not only will you appreciate it, but your students will be also. The rewards of being an educator will ensure that you're always relevant as other professionals are. And as Yinka said earlier on, it's a profession that it has certain stigma in Nigeria, but we know that the educators are the most important. Being an educator is one of the most important jobs in the world, because as we said, we shape and nurture young minds. So I think it is something that we should always make sure that we're striving to improve ourselves, to be a better person, to be a better educator, so that the work that we're doing, the relevance and the success that we make is evident to all. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bumi Afilaka. That was very, very, very educative for us. Thank you. Loaded with information. I'm sure the people who, like me, have been taking notes since I found myself back in the classroom after 20 years sojourn in the HR sector. I finally found myself back to what I've always had a passion for, teaching. So because of the passion part that you mentioned, I'm going to start with your conclusion.
Okay.
You must have a passion for teaching. That I discovered in the last 4 years. In order to do well and to be relevant and successful, unfortunately, successful in the teaching profession does not mean how much money you make. It's how many lives have you positively impacted? How many of those children will say sometime in the future, but for Mrs. Owairu, I may not have made it this far. That for me quantifies success as a teacher. So you must be passionate about what you do, to want to learn more, to grow, and to continue to be relevant in that profession. Thank you very much, Bumi. I am going to do a quick summary of the points you raised for us, that in order for us to continue to be relevant in this profession and to be successful, we must believe in our students' potentials. We must learn all we can about our field. We must be fun and energetic, which is where I was talking about the mental state, the mental health of teachers who are going back into the classrooms now. How much of energy are they bringing back into the classroom, considering what they've been going through in the last 6 months? You must be willing to take risk, that's explore new things, try new ideas, so that your children too can grow up with that mindset. You must be creative and be ready to think outside the box. If anything hasn't shown us why we need creativity as teachers, this pandemic has shown us that. Absolutely. We need to constantly think outside the box. How can we do teaching in any situation that we find ourselves? We must be consistent and decisive. We must be willing to communicate with our children, with the parents and our colleagues, and constantly improve on our communication skills. We must listen and show empathy about personal issues amongst our students. We must provide relevant study materials, relevance being the key word here. And we must also help our children set goals just as we set goals for ourselves. Thank you very, very much. For me, this has been an eye-opener. Thank you. I'm back in school, so to speak. Mrs. Owairu, do you have any questions before I ask Filaka my questions?
I do. You've worked in Nigeria with teachers before. And I know how important all these practices you're mentioning are. How do we drive that? Because I don't know when you worked in Nigeria, on the scale of 1 to 10, the mindset your teachers had towards what success meant in terms of their relationship with their students. And in terms of collaborating, what would you say? What would you say is the power behind a teacher collaborating with another? That's one. Two, I love the fact of taking risks. I find in Nigeria that teachers get upset with students when they can't answer the question. They're embarrassed to say, I don't know. Do you understand? Can you just talk a bit more around that? So whoever is there, that it's okay.
Yeah.
And I would want you to, because I saw something on Facebook about Mrs. Afilaka, and it was what is, and for me, like Mrs. Shemowo said, that is the success of a teacher. And a student had come in and said, oh, Mrs. Afilaka, thank you so much. And they went on, and I thought, wow. And that was actually why, I'm thinking, wow, because your student is your success story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how do we encourage teachers that way to take risks, collaborate? You said a lot of things there. How do we make them understand that that's the main thing?
Absolutely. I think one of the main points is understanding why you have a person has become a teacher. It's not the point you said earlier is that we're doing this. If it is your passion, you're doing it, you want to improve yourself. Some people become a teacher because it's like they look around, there's nothing else to do. And I'm not talking about those mindset of people that are in that category. If you came into education because you want to impart learning, you impart knowledge to young students, then you'll be passionate about it. And if you're passionate about it, even if the school you're working for doesn't necessarily have those facilities in place, it is something that in the private sector, schools seem to take it as a competition. Not being able, if this school does something, they don't want to share it with other schools. I was part of an organization when I was in Nigeria. We were part of the ASEN, Association of International School Educators in Nigeria. And they used to have seminars, they would have collaborative meetings within different schools, they would have competitions for the students, but it was all about sharing best practice and providing the scenarios where teachers could go to other schools and learn. They'd have training sessions that would help identify areas of strength and weaknesses that the other teachers and other schools could use and implement to improve their own setting. I mean, I know that your consultancy, Let Consultant, is somewhere that brings together teachers of like-mindedness, but we also have to go back and think back to the proprietors. Sometimes they don't see that as important, and that's where the mistake is, because they're focusing on the bottom line of getting as many students into school so that they can get the money. And there have been scenarios where I'm aware of that students that have failed exams, the teachers have been told to pass them because the proprietors see that the students the parents, by paying the students' fees, are paying for a service. So they said, okay, they've paid for their education, they must get their education. That getting their education doesn't mean that every student has to pass. So it's about your integrity as well. You as a teacher know that, okay, even if officially your school doesn't provide this service for you to go and talk to another other school, you can online. There are so many resources online that you can start. And even if you are the person within the school that goes to the proprietor and says, okay, this is something that I want us to start in this school. can you help towards it? It might be something locally that they're starting within the insets, in school training, where you come to this proprietor and say, what I want to do in this training we're having next is I want us to share best practice. What are the 3 parts of a lesson? You have your starter, you have your main, and your plenary in the lesson, making sure that everybody's working to the same format and making sure that there you can identify best practice and implement it. Because sometimes, as you said rightly so at the beginning, Inka, that we as teachers, we're the least, we're the most backwards when it comes to technology. We're so stuck in our ways that talk and chalk. You talk from the front of the class, the students do it, you set them 50 questions, and that's the end. But there's so many different ways as teachers that we can get our material across, engaging. And like you said, I have been lessons where as a maths teacher, I have students that they know more math. I can actually say they know at a point of time, they know more maths than I do. They've come, we're working through a question, they've spotted I've made a mistake, and I will say, okay, oh yeah, you're right. Let's come back to that. Come and see me at break time, we can go through that question. I'll have to review it and come back the next lesson. There's absolutely nothing wrong with letting a student know that you don't know everything. You know, if you're open and honest with your students, they will appreciate it. And I don't see it as a bigger, it's happened so many times where in different subjects, different teachers, oh, they've asked a question and you say, oh, you're actually true, that's very interesting. Let's look at that. You research it, I'll research it, we come back tomorrow and we can look at that. So as a teacher, you shouldn't be afraid to admit when you don't know something. You should always be open to looking at new opportunities. And if they're not available within your school, you be the person, as we said, being relevant, you be the person to actually try and implement that. Because being relevant and being successful, as we know, as we said, it's not about financial profits. Teachers are the worst paid people in the job in the world. Everybody knows that. So it's about you wanting to give back. So you use your time. If there's nothing available, you start it up.
Thank you very much, Bomia Filaka. Thank you for reminding us of how important the work of a teacher is and the things we need to do to stay relevant and to remain professional. Because like I say, I'm looking forward to a time in Nigeria when we will have certification programs for teachers before you can be allowed in the classroom. Yes. Just like we have the law school for lawyers, we have certification exams for accountants, for administrators. We need to have certification exams for teachers in Nigeria. It's a noble profession and it is a very, very important profession. Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions yet for Mrs. Afilaka, but I hope you're still on. Yes. In the webinar room for a while, okay? So you'll give me time to go on to Yinka Owairu, who will be taking the last sessions for today on applying principles for creating streams of income. I think this has been born out of the need that has arisen during this pandemic when teachers were practically on lockdown in terms of their job, their sources of income, salaries, wages, and all. We all had to start thinking, what do we do to keep body and soul together until this storm blows over? But that said, I always say that perhaps it may be the time when we're actually going to separate the teachers who are passionate about teaching from those who are just in it to bridge a particular gap. Because at the end of this pandemic, we will only have teachers in classrooms and every other person will go back to doing what they have a passion for individually. So I'm inviting Yinka Owairu. We will be doing a different type of session with her. I'm going to be asking her questions. Instead of her doing a presentation, I'm going to be asking her questions, and her first topic will be on strategies for improving personal finance. I'll ask the questions. Mrs. Owairu, are you ready for all our questions?
Yes, ma'am. Bring it on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. My first question to Yinka will be, how do I apply financial intelligence on the little money that I earn that is barely enough now? I'm assuming that we're referring to my take-home pay that hardly takes me home. How then, for something that doesn't even take me home, how do I begin to apply some form of financial intelligence to that?
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Shemawa. And to do a backtrack, the reason we actually include the issue of finance in this summit is because of exactly what Mrs. Afilaka was saying. Teachers are not well paid enough. So how do I, if I want to work with the student with all the passion I have, if that's what we're saying, forget the money, you know, really work your heart out. But these people, money is important and they want to like do well, like the colleagues are doing. And so what we try to do is if we teach you financially what to do, then you can concentrate on your work in school. So what I'm going to say about financial intelligence first is money has a language. Money has a language. It is never about it is never about how much you earn. It is about what you understand to use money for. It is that you understand the nature of money. It is that you understand what money can do for you. And so that I'll take something from that question. You said the little money. There's never little money because money has the character and the nature of being multiplied. So let me give you an example. I sell pure water and one bag of pure water is 10 naira. But on that go slow, I can sell to 1,000 people. See the value of 10 naira. That 10 naira is no longer small because it's multiplied. You know, it becomes much more. So the first thing teachers have to understand is don't look at the small pay. Money is never enough for anybody. I do not know the person that will say it's enough. Because the more your salary increases or the more your earnings increases, the better your taste gets. You don't go to the same shops anymore. I remember when I bought my first good car. Oh my goodness, and I bought fuel. I knew I'd bought a big car because the car I was using before, this was in Nigeria, with 6,000 naira, I would fill the tank. And when I went to the petrol station, first time the driver was there and we filled the tank, it was 15,000 naira. And the driver came into the car and said, "Madam, you have really bought big car." I'll never forget. Okay, so you have to understand that the more money you earn, it's natural for us as people for our taste to change. And if you earn 1 million tomorrow, you will spend the 1 million in no time. So it's the same thing with the person earning 10,000 naira and the person earning 1 million. If you're going to be above board and not be broke and not be financially, you know, financially inadequate, you have to understand the language of money. And so because there's a lot of questions, I'll just round it up to say 3 things. First, you must know your money story. First, you must know the kind of person you are with money. Are you somebody that just spends? You never think. You just spend the money. Are you somebody that you spend when you have a need, or are you somebody that is an investor? Now, the mindset between a spender, a consumer, and an investor are quite different. You're going to have to go and research. If you want more, come to Teach 20, we'll teach you. But for that, so you're either a spender. So I'll say this to you. If you're a spender, you need to stop. Money does not stay. Money is something that you attract to you. And when you attract money to you and you don't use it well, it's difficult for you to multiply it or difficult for you to turn it into more. Okay, so when you have that understanding, I earned 25,000 naira. I said this to someone. I said, you earn 25,000 naira. Let's go to the barest minimum, right? There's a certain, and some of the things that come with financial intelligence is you also have to understand the characteristics you must adopt. First, you must be willing to sacrifice. You must be willing to have a plan. And in that plan, because moving up financially is in stages, and every time you want to move from one level to the other, sacrifice must come in. You must have delayed gratification because you have a plan. So at 25,000, you're planning, you already have the plan. You've heard Mrs. Afilaka about best teaching practice. So you're already determined that you're going to be one of those teachers that they're going to take notice of you in school. So you're already planning with HR how your salary is going to increase. There's a plan, right? But with your 25,000 naira, you're one person that when you get to work, you eat meat pie, you have a Coke. And when they ask you, say, I can't come and die, I have to have those things. So let's look at meat pie and Coke every day, 400 naira, let's say 400 naira, or even 300, times 5 is 1,500, times 4 is 6,000. Let's say 25,000, that's already 19,000 because of a habit that you can kick to the curb. So what I'm saying is, in terms of being financially independent, it's not the amount of money you have. It's the intelligence with which you have to plan. It's intelligence with which you know you want to multiply whatever is left over from, you know, your savings, that allows you to become rich. Because if you go into into another job, you earn more money with the same mindset, you're going to make the same mistakes. You're going to always be broke. So financial intelligence, go learn the language of money. Like I said, you have to have your money story. I will do this. If you're a subscriber with us, we'll send you the form for knowing your money story. Your money story sort of lets you know where you're wasting money, where you need to cover up on money. So know your money story. And then, like I said, be ready to sacrifice, be ready to delay gratification. And I don't know whether I should just say this here now, because it's coming to my mind. You have to understand the power of budgeting. You have to understand the power of saving, and you have to understand the power of investing.
Very much, Mrs. Owairo, for that first question. I will not do a recap yet. I would ask all the questions under this strategies for improving personal finance for ourselves. My second question then will be, as a teacher, which I'm sure this will interest a lot of our participants. As a teacher, how do I find other streams of income to add to my teaching job?
Okay.
How do I find other streams of income to add to my teaching job? We all agree that we are some of the least paid professionals in most countries. So now we're trying to find out, how do we add other streams of income to our teaching jobs?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shemawa. I'll say this for teachers out there. One of the reasons why I encourage teachers to have multiple streams is because we're meant to close early. We're meant to tidy off early, and then we have time on our hands. So, because I'll keep referring to Mrs. Afilaka, if you practice if you adopt best practices of teaching, you can leave work on time. And when you can leave work on time, you can have another stream of income. Let me also say that when you have another stream of income, which is a private practice, do not let it override your first assignment. When you do that, the natural laws of success, you will not make good use of that money you make from another stream. That primary assignment as you have as a teacher, do it well first. When you've been able to do that, because it's the same principles you apply in your place of work that you're going to apply, because that's your own little business. That's your own private business there. It's the same principles you're going to apply when it comes to that private business. Okay, so multiple streams. Let's go to it quickly. This is what I'll advise you to do. Let's look at it in terms of concept. What I mean by that is you're already a teacher. Now you don't want to become a jack of all trades, master of none. So you want to do a concept. And what do I mean by that is sit down and look at what are the things that relate to teaching. So I can do after school lesson. I can do after school club. I can manage something for someone. I can do online administrative work. Okay. I can sell school accessories. I can make school accessories. What else? Off the top of my head, that's like 5 or 6 things. Now, the reason why you want to dive that way is because you do not want that stream of income when you are in 2 separate fields to connect as a problem. You're thinking strategy this way, you're thinking strategy that way. But when it's on a concept, on a line of concept that is drawn from the main one, while you're thinking of the first major one, you're already getting ideas for those different ones. So let's take, for example, I decide I'm going to have an after school lesson. Yeah. Even from having an after school lesson, I can start selling certain things for my students. If I sit down as a business person to think, the problem a lot of the times we're not doing well with multiple streams is still the same mindset, like Mrs. Afilaka was saying. Money, when money motivates you, you don't make a good business person. When money motivates you, you don't have good ideas because it's all about how much am I going to make? And when your push is about how much am I going to make, you're not thinking value, because people pay for value. You're not thinking, what value am I going to add? You're not thinking, what problem am I going to solve? So multiple stream, look at what you do. You have to take a diagnosis of your life. How much time do you have? Don't just go into multiple stream because you want to earn extra money, because you might just spend more transport money doing that job because somebody else is selling something. You decide once I close school, then you leave school on time. They catch you, they deduct your money. You know, it's a cycle. So you first have to look at how much time you have for yourself. Then, like I said, look at it as a concept. What can work for me? Don't forget, it's another stream. It's to add to what you're making already. And so it shouldn't take away from you, really. It should add to you. If you don't want to go down the road of concept, let's look at in terms of income. So multiple streams, when you're working, you earn income. So that's earned income. You can also look at, you can also look at profit income, okay? In terms of, I left my money in the bank. So some of us don't even have to do anything extra, because you see some people tell you, I'm so tired after work, I don't want to do anything else. Yes, you can be like that. So learn about bonds, learn about dividends, learn about deposits in the bank, make your money. Some of us just dump our money in the bank and the bankers are happy. So learn about how you can make profit from your own money that you're keeping. Then there's dividend income. What does that mean? You can join a cooperative in your school. Some people will call it a job. They're different things. You can join a cooperative, they'll give you dividends. And cooperatives are very powerful. Their own laws are less stricter than, and they sometimes plus dividends, plus what they allow you to loan from the bank, it can allow you to start up a small business. Remember, when you start up a small business and you're with someone, commit to that someone first, they're still primary. But you can start a small business on the side that can allow you to roll. So that would be dividend income. There's rent, okay? There's also rent. You can decide, and people can say, but I'm just a teacher. How am I going to rent? That's where the sacrifice comes in. When you've made up your mind that I'm going to earn so much in the next 2 years or 3 years, as the money is coming in, hold yourself strictly. If it's a 1-bedroom bungalow you've built, it's a plan. Nobody arrives in a day. So if it's a 5-year plan, in the next 5 years, I am going to have a 2-bedroom bungalow. I will rent a room. Then another 5-year plan. So you're renting, that's your own gig. They give you your monthly money, you're adding it to what you have, and you're good. What I find with people is when they make extra money from extra income, they spend it like it's Christmas. No, that's not it. It's not Christmas. It doesn't mean, the lifestyle you have is going to change immediately. No, you're getting that money because you want to have a huge base to do something to shift your life from one level to the other. So you don't make that extra income and say to your wife, babe, today we made extra 20K, so I'm going to give you 10K. You don't just hit the market. No, that 20K, if your life is in a good place, you put it away. Like I said, are you going to take that 20,000 and give it to the bank and say, okay, the next 3 months, they're going to give me so much on it. And so I'm going to leave it there for a year, because you know what? We don't need it right now. Okay, then we can also look at capital gains, but that's those are the big ones. You've written a book, you're getting royalties. So those are the different ways that you can look at, earning extra income. I can't say it all today. My mouth is running over.
Thank you very much, Yinka. Thank you. We're all learning from that answer, where we have learned that we need to look for needs around us that we can meet and be paid for, services that we can render when we're not working in school, and that will also not run into conflict with our first or primary assignments. And we can meet those needs, provide those services, and be paid for them. And for those who do not want to do that, they have opportunities to learn how to invest in the capital and financial markets as it obtains in their countries or their areas of residence. Thank you very much, Yinka. I'll ask you the last question on strategies for improving personal finance. What are the few basic steps that anyone, us teachers in particular, can take to improve our personal income? I guess that's a follow-up to the previous question. What are the few basic steps we can add to improve our personal income?
I think I already mentioned it earlier on, but budgeting will definitely be, I'll say this much, I'm a Christian, so I'm going to say, you know what, pay your tithe first, okay? I don't care what anybody says. Pay your tithe first, because that protects your money, okay? But going on, budgeting is important because you don't want to buy. The power of budgeting is that it keeps you in a place of discipline, okay? So you've gotten your 25,000 naira, right? I say to people, you've paid your rent already, because what I find with people sometimes is they pay the rent for the year, and then by the end of the year, they're looking for money to pay rent. So I say to you, don't do that. Budget your rent for every month. If it's 1,000 naira, if your rent is 60,000 naira, for example, for the year, put away 2,000 in a place because it's under budget. Rent, so your rent is important, your light is important, water is important. Food can be put on a budget. We think sometimes that we're living life and enjoying life when we overeat. Is actually a problem when you overeat. It's a mental state. It's a mindset, because you must control. Learning to control yourself comes also from controlling what you put in your mouth. So you can put your feeding on a budget and say to your wife, it's an agreement, baby, we're going somewhere. Okay, if we spend only 5,000 naira and have a menu, remember you're sacrificing, and it's also delayed gratification. You're going to eat that fried rice and jollof rice. Yeah, you will. But if you have to drink Gary on some afternoons to get yourself from one level to the other, you should. So when you've sat down with your wife to say, the budget is 5,000 naira, because we've looked at it that when you go to the market, you buy wholesale. So by the time you buy one bag of this, one bag of that, it's enough. And the children, it's a team thing. You have to sit everybody down and say, this we're going to spend, we're going to use for a month. We know that there's certain foods that you must replenish, okay? But for those ones that are home, buy it in bulk. Because I see teachers going home in the evening and buying piecemeal because they think I'll buy it as it goes. No, you're going to do, because that person that is selling you piecemeal is not giving you wholesale price. They're giving you retailer price. And so if you will take the time out to go and buy wholesale, it'll be better off for you. So budgeting is key. Why do you budget? So you see where you're spending your money. When you've budgeted, the next thing is you're disciplined, so that whatever is left can go into the next concept, which is saving. Now, there's always been this mindset of save for a rainy day. You need to kill that mindset. You don't save for a rainy day because you're not believing what you believe for is what you're going to get. As a man thinks, so it's going to be. So if you think you're saving because of trouble, you're saving because of chaos, that's what you're going to get. You save because you want to start a business. You save because you want to invest. You save because you want to build that house that will give you rent for the rest of your life. That's why you save. So it's very important that saving is a part of your budget. So what people do is they do a budget and leave the savings out. No, savings is part of the budget. So I've taken out my tithe. The next thing I take out my savings. Do you understand? If possible, take out your savings before you budget the rest at the end of the day. And then the last one will be investment. Now for investment, I know Nigerians don't like hearing this, and well, it's not only Nigerians, because it's not for Nigerians only, but Nigerians are in my heart, I can't lie, proudly Nigerian. So it is true, Black Lives Matter. Yes, so yeah, it's true. Yes. So what I'll say with investment is pay somebody to invest your money for you. Can we stop, being ignorant until I learn? So you've got 10,000 naira. Pay somebody 1,000 naira to turn the remaining 9,000 to 15,000 for you. They can do that. And then when you have 15,000, pay them 2K. But we want free information. We like free. We don't want to pay for anything. And that's why sometimes we remain where we are. So on investment, I can't come out and say invest in this particular thing, but investments will definitely, you can do one investment and it just changes your life. You can invest in one business and your life just changes, but you need proper information and you need to have the full details. And if you're going to pick somebody to invest for you, make sure they have a good track record. Make sure that they're established. They're not just quack because they can run away with your money. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yinka Wairu. So we're learning delayed gratification, budgeting, and discipline to help increase or improve our personal incomes and personal finances. Okay, so I'll take the last session with you quickly so that we're not too pressed for time. And that will be
Mrs. Shamawa,
yes,
the last section, Mrs. Afilaka can get involved because it's still around educational matters as well.
Since she's still around, good.
Yes.
Mrs. Afilaka, thank you. We'd like to hear from you again. Thank you.
We can share it.
Okay.
Yes, because it's about teachers now. We're breaking barriers post-COVID. How are we breaking barriers post-COVID? So I'm going to ask you the first question, which I'm happy you're still here. You should answer that for us. How can we transition from the traditional space to the digital space? The truth of it for me right now is for some time to come, until a vaccine is found for COVID-19, until the vaccine goes around, we're still going to be having spikes, levels, drops in the rates of infection. The more we go out, the more children go to school, we have some of these rates go up, we'll lock down again for another 2 weeks, we go back. In order not to have that much of a huge interruption in teaching, we have come to realize that we must move from the traditional space to the digital space. So can you speak to us, tell us some nuggets about doing that transition from traditional space to digital space?
Thank you. I think it's, as Yinka said very much earlier on, it is making sure that we as teachers, we are up to date with current technology. I find that in this day and age, it is a necessity, not a luxury, for a teacher to have a laptop. Not just a phone, or maybe a tablet at least. You must have at least a tablet. I would actually say the minimum is a laptop with internet activity. Yes, we know that the data is not reliable, internet is not reliable, and it's part of what I would consider, as Yinka was talking about financial budgeting. You have that money every month that you're going to set apart because you know you have to be able to connect to the internet. Having a laptop is a necessity in this day and age. If your school is not providing you with one, I mean, that again is something you can look up with your school proprietors, look into the maybe budgeting so that you come up with a payment plan, but you must have a laptop. There's no other way around it. This week in our school, for example, we have been told that we have to have set work already for students that may be isolating. So if they send home a year group, the work is already available on the school website for them to access the homework. So we have already gone back now, as a school that has resumed 3 weeks, we've now set up per subject, per year group, per class, work for them to do from now until December. And the only way you can do that is making sure, again, it comes back to technology. If your school doesn't have access to these online textbooks, online websites where they can do online activities, it's going to be very difficult because you cannot, what are you going to do? You can't ask them to take pictures of the work. That is too minor, they're labor intensive. They have to have facilities where they can access the science textbook, they can access the English textbook, well, the books that they're reading, and have online activities that can mark. For maths, we have websites that they watch the video clip, they do the activity, and it marks it for them. So we don't even have to do anything to mark the work. It's already marked. And there's so many different websites and software out there that have that facility. So if you are being the person in the school to be the one that's going to go to your head of school and say, we have to get this software. Google Classroom is another factor, where another thing where you can create Word documents, PowerPoints, and share it in that document, set up a homework, and the students can access it. I mean, each school will have their different technology that they're buying into, but it has to be something that you get the buy-in of the proprietor. But you yourself know how to use Zoom, know how to create a Word document, the basic office environment. You have to be. That is the basic bottom line of what you should be able to do.
Thank you very much, Bumi. I was discussing with Yinka Wairu a few days ago that as a HR practitioner, if I needed to help a school right now employ teachers, the minimum for me will be a working knowledge of the Microsoft Office.
Absolutely.
So you must be able to present your lesson plans on PowerPoint presentations. You must be able to present your classes, your notes, your teaching materials digitally. That's the barest minimum requirement for any teacher who wants to stay relevant in today's education field.
Absolutely.
It's not, we're done with the times of everything is picked from the textbook. Everything is written down, photocopied, papers passed around.
Exactly.
We're almost getting to the end of that era. And I hope our teachers are listening and learning in order for us to make progress. And then in order for us to look serious to other professions, we must begin to take ourselves seriously. And we can only do that through continuous learning. Thank you very much, Bumi. Thank you. Okay. Now, I'm coming to another thing someone had asked me before, that I've seen teachers who have remained teachers teaching the same subject matter or the subject area for years, how can teachers professionally move up the leadership ladder in their organizations, in the schools they work with? How can they attain leadership roles? Are there any nuggets? Are there any things that they need to work towards? Yinka, can you speak to us about that?
Okay. When you have a desire to move from a role to a leadership role, it's that you've adopted certain values and you've exhibited and displayed them. It's that you've learned certain skills that when you're called upon 24/7, you will display it. It is only in the educational sector I see people see that they feel they deserve leadership because they've been there for a long time. It doesn't work that way. Everybody is a leader, and you don't wait until you're given a leadership role before you show that you're a leader. Because I say this to people all the time: if you cannot personally lead yourself, you can't lead others. And once you know to lead yourself, you will know to lead other people, because it's the same values for personal leadership that you're going to need to lead other people. So if you desire to move up, number one, the values. What are the values of a leader? Integrity, truth, honesty, commitment, full commitment, discipline. You practice that even for yourself, even when there was no, when you read the autobiography of Obama, they said even before he became president, he was acting like one, he was speaking like one, he was preparing to be one. So you don't wait until you're given a leadership role. So like Mrs. Afilaka was talking about best practices, are you found even practicing those things and you're yearning to become a leader? So I'll say this as well. Technically, you must become, technically, you must be competent. Okay, behaviorally, you must be competent. It starts from there. So you adhere to the school rules. You're the best, you perform the best practices. Like Mrs. Afilaka said, you're coming to the proprietor and you're saying, Ma, I know about this. You're making things happen. You're not sitting on the fence. You're one of the ones that makes things happen in the school. That's the behavioral competence. Then you have technical competence. We're saying you must have skills that everybody else doesn't have. Because as a leader, there's no way you're not going to be able to use a system. There's no way you're not going to be able to Google. So once you've had technical competence and you're good and you're consistent with it, your employer will take notice of you. Even if you don't have that much leadership skills, because you already know to personally lead yourself, you won't make that much error as a leader, because leadership is a spiritual thing. Leadership is you, is a selfless thing, is a character thing more than a skill. It's when you're managing people, you need skills. So if you desire that, is that you've been found to score 100% first on your values. First on your values. Are you a team player? Is your language yes, yes, or no, no? Are you going to be the first person to say, it's not possible. Madam, it's not going to work. Because nothing is impossible. If the Thomas Edisons of this world had listened, we would never have light. Okay? So that is important, that your behavior is in alignment with the behavior of a leader. Consistently, consistency of character. And then you've adopted a lot of skills, you've learned, you're leading your field, like Mrs. Afilaka said, you're learning, you know what is going on, and you're competent. So when they give you an opportunity, you rise up to it immediately. And then you now have leadership competence. Of course, you'll become a leader. Every employer is looking for somebody who's going to add value to them. They can't ignore you. When people say they're not taking notice of me in my workplace, it's possible you have technical competence, but your behavioral competence is zero. So you have skills, but your attitude is nasty. And so they don't see you. So it's got to be that it goes in phases. And so if you can have all that, they will notice you. I'll say this because I've had questions like this now. What if they don't take notice of me? You keep doing what you're doing. People are watching you. And you might just be somebody from outside. And when the opportunity comes for you to show what you know to do, it might not be in that organization. But learn as much as you can. And, empower yourself as much as you can for when the next opportunity is going to come along.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Yinka. Like Bumi Afilaka said in her first presentation, learn as much as you can about your field. You must continually yearn for knowledge, improvement, be abreast of all the changes, all the new trends, all the developments in your area. And then when you now couple that with your good behavioral practices, there is no way someone somewhere will not identify those leadership traits in you and begin to give you opportunities. But if you say no all the time and you just want to walk within the scope that you're given, this is what I'm told to do, and that's strictly what I'm going to do. It's not going to earn us so much brownie points with our employers. Thank you very much, Yinka. I'm going to see if the last question fits to go to Bumi Afilaka before we release her. Okay? That will be, how do I break the barrier from average to outstanding? What I think Yinka captured that mostly in her response. What leadership skills or competencies do I need to play higher roles in the school systems? I think Yinka captured that, but I don't know if Bumi Afilaka has one or two things to add to that for us about how we can be better, how we can move up the hierarchy, how we can improve our skills and competencies for leadership roles. Bumi?
Thank you. Yes, I agree that Yinka has covered everything. I agree totally with everything that she said. But one other thing I want to add is, if it is possible that, as you said, they're not recognizing you, you can go and volunteer. You know, sometimes it may mean that you say, okay, I want to take on this role, and it will be without any remuneration. So you might say, okay, for 1 year in school, I would like to do this, on top of your own normal role of responsibilities that you're doing. But that will show to the head teacher or the proprietor that how committed you are, that you think of an area which could do with some progress or where you can add value to. And then you say, okay, I want to take this on as a personal project for the year. I don't expect to be have any remuneration for it, but it's going to be something I'm going to be working on through the year, and I will feed back to you every term or half term. And then at the end of the year, we will round up and look at what progress or what value that project has been. I mean, sometimes it might mean going on secondment. You say, okay, I want to be seconded to work with the deputy head. It's so that, again, it's not paid, it's voluntary, but you are spending your free time, and it will be a lot of hard work because you're going to be doing your normal teaching role as well as shadowing the head or whoever it is. But they have that. You've now brought it to the head's attention or the party's attention that you are keen to do something else. So even if they didn't think that there was a gap before, sometimes you doing that work, they're ready to create that position for you. And even if, as you said, even if in your own school at that time, there isn't that position, you can now put that on your CV and say that I was in charge of this project from initiation to completion. I was seconded to the head of school, an associate head teacher, or the role and responsibilities is something that you can add to your CV so that when you're applying outside, you have something to show for it. It gives you a leg up, because we know how difficult it is to get a job when you haven't done the job. So if you've done that role in some part before, that will help you get a leg up. But you have to be prepared. Sometimes it's sacrifice, as we said. You must be prepared to do voluntary work, to do some unpaid work, and that will not also, again, add to your responsibilities.
Thank you very much, Bumi. Our participants are reminded to continuously drop their email addresses so that the back office can pick up the email addresses for communicating with you after this webinar. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bumi, for that recap on what we need to do to go from average to outstanding. What skills and competencies do we need to have, or do we need to grow in order to play higher roles in the school system? Thank you. Yinka, before we leave, I'm going to ask you to do a reminder of what the tribe you're trying to build with Teachers with Purpose is about. Can you just give us a reminder again before we start closing for today?
Okay, Teachers Breaking Barriers. Whoever started with us or whoever is watching on Facebook would have heard, well, the few things we've been saying about teachers, that we do know that we're in a noble profession. We do know that we're paid. Nobody can pay a teacher. I say to teachers all the time, nobody can pay you because you work with your emotions, you work with your blood, you work with your energy. But if you understand the power of posterity, if you understand if you have financial intelligence. See, there's some laws around being a teacher that work for us to become successful in life. It's a law because you're helping lives. What you make happen for others will happen for you because you're helping lives to get better. Your life is bound to be good. So you have to, with all the best practices and all that. So what we're looking for is a group of teachers who believe that, who want to give their hearts to the job, who want to do it properly, but want to have a good life too. They want to be like their colleagues. They want to learn how to be financially free. They want to have the confidence to work out there. We want to work with them and teach them what it means to be financially literate. We want to be sure that wherever they're working, they are working with diligence. We want to be sure that, they're observing best practices. And so we're launching Teachers Breaking Barrier. We want testimonies from it. We want people to say, yeah, I work in this school, but you know what? It's not the school that is providing me financially because I've learned. And we're hoping that as that goes on, it spreads and teachers begin to understand that there's a difference between a noble profession and a profession that pays a lot of money. But the fact that it's a noble profession doesn't mean you cannot be in a good place. So we're looking to work with those people. We want commitment, I won't lie. Serious people who are ready to do the work because you'll get work and all that. But I've been a teacher for years and I know that it's a fantastic job to be in. I've worked with teachers, I've taught, I've consulted for schools. There's so much in there and it just takes a mind. So Teachers Breaking Barriers want to break down that mind and make people see what is available for them. So if they want to join us, you have to give us your email. If you're already a subscriber, we'll write to you. And so our subscribers already have a right to becoming part of that if they want to avail of it. But we want it to come from a place of, I want this.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I'm sure Dr. Fiki Manua will see the recording at some point in time. So I'm not going to forget to thank her for her time with us and for obliging us on this webinar at such short notice. And Bumi Afilaka, thank you again for that most enlightening presentation, your advice, your nuggets of wisdom from your wealth of experience. Thank you very much for sharing with us today. Yinka Owairu, thank you very much for creating this platform where we can learn from each other, where we can share ideas and grow as teachers and begin to see our profession as truly noble and rewarding for each and every one of us. Thank you. I'd like to thank all the participants who've turned up today. Thank you very much. And please look forward to getting emails from Teach to Endure before the end of the following week as a follow-up if you want to become a member of the tribe. I think Inka has something to say before we leave.
Yes, I do. I would like to thank Mrs. Shemowo. Nobody's thanking you. I want to thank Mrs. Shemowo as well for facilitating this session for us. You did a great job, and I think maybe forever, maybe you just facilitate the summit for us because it's annual. So thank you so much. The job you did. What I always tell people is that the job of speaking is not an easy job. And so what you've done, if I was going to pay for it, I know how much I would have to pay for it. But you came on board because this is free and you did it free. I need to let people know. Mrs. Afilaka, you're a blessing. What you just did, if I was going to charge people for you to do that, I know how much I would charge. You gave out a lot, for free. Thank you so much. It's all free, guys. None of these women charged me anything. They came on because they want to give back. The most I will ask from you is watch this over and over again. Make sure you pick something. Life is about a strong desire to become. And from everything that's been said today, you can become. So thank you so much, ladies. I super appreciate it. Thank you so much. I had an awesome time. It was great being facilitated rather than facilitated. So that was good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shemowo. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bumi. It's nice meeting you. Thank you. And have a great weekend to all our panelists and participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.